Please be seated. Chancellor, graduates, guests and members of the university community, good afternoon and welcome. I'm Bill Patterson, University Secretary and Director of Governance Support. Graduations are one of the university's most important events. This year, the university will hold over 50 ceremonies both in Sydney and in Shanghai. On occasion, the university seeks to honour individuals who have made extraordinary impacts upon society through the contributions they have made. Today, the university will bestow an honorary award upon an outstanding member of our community. I would like to introduce to you the official party who are here on stage. Seated at the centre of the stage is Ms. Catherine Livingstone AO, Chancellor of the University, who will preside over this ceremony. The Chancellor is joined today by Professor Andrew Parfitt, Vice-Chancellor and President, Distinguished Professor Larissa Berendt AO, our honorary award recipient, and who will also deliver the occasional address, Professor Anita Stunke, Dean of the Faculty of Law, and Professor Carl Rhodes, Dean of the UTS Business School, who will both be presenting graduates. The other people seated on stage are Emeritus Professor Michael McDaniel AO, Special Advisor to the Vice-Chancellor, Emeritus Professor Tony Moon, Dr. Lisa O'Brien AM, Pro-Chancellor and member of the UTS Council, Ms. Diane Hill, and Mr. Kurt Cheng, members of the University Council. Professors, academics and professional staff from faculties and institutes have played such a large part in the success of today's graduates. I would also like to acknowledge a member of staff graduating today, Lisa Nicole Reid Billington. It now gives me great pleasure to invite Ms. Catherine Livingstone AO, our Chancellor, to formally open proceedings.
In the name of the Council, I declare this congregation of the University of Technology Sydney duly assembled. And on behalf of the University of Technology Sydney, and before we begin proceedings, and on behalf of all of those present, I would like to acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. It is upon their ancestral lands that UTS stands. Similarly, I would like to pay our respects to the elders both past and present, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians of knowledge for this place. In this graduation ceremony, we will celebrate conferral of awards upon graduates from the Faculty of Law and the UTS Business School. Today's ceremony marks a great achievement for the graduates and recognises the support which they have received from family and friends, many of whom are with us here today. We warmly welcome you, and together we will celebrate the achievements of the graduates. I will now ask Professor Andrew Parfitt, Vice-Chancellor and President, to present a candidate to receive the University's Distinguished Service Award.
Chancellor, I present to you Distinguished Professor Larissa Berendt, AO. Chancellor, in 2007, the University Council established the Distinguished Service Award. This award is made in recognition of outstanding service given to the university above and beyond the normal course of duties. Chancellor, the Council has identified Distinguished Professor Larissa Berendt AO as a worthy recipient of this award. Distinguished Professor Larissa Berendt AO is a Yulalawai and Gamilaroi woman, a highly respected Indigenous leader and researcher, and an award-winning filmmaker, author and human rights advocate. In 1998, she became the first Indigenous Australian to graduate with a Doctor of Judicial Science from the Harvard Law School. She was UTS's first Indigenous Professor of Law, commencing in 2001, and the university's first Indigenous Distinguished Professor. She was the inaugural director of what was then the Jumbunna Indigenous House of Learning between 2001 and 2011, and inaugural Associate Dean Indigenous Research in 2021. Advancing the Indigenous agenda locally and globally has been at the heart of Professor Berendt's notable career. She has published over 135 pieces of research, including journal articles, books and films. Her research has led to policy reforms, parliamentary and legal and judicial procedures, as well as a greater recognition of the circumstances, struggles and achievements of Indigenous Australians. Her award-winning film, After the Apology, led to an ongoing review into Aboriginal children in out-of-home care, while her documentary, Innocence Betrayed, resulted in criminal law reform. She also co-authored the high-profile Do Better report, an independent review into Collingwood Football Club's responses to racism and cultural safety in the workplace. Since 2022, Professor Berent has secured over $10 million in research funding, including $3.5 million from the prestigious Australian Laureate Fellowship that she holds. She is currently working on exploring new ways to give First Nations communities greater control over how they're being treated within the criminal justice system, the coronial and child protection systems. Currently, Professor Berent is a Laureate Fellow at the Jumbunna Institute for Indigenous Education and Research at UTS. Her dedication and commitment to UTS has been outstanding. She has developed a sector-leading research team through fostering and mentoring senior Indigenous researchers who are regularly sought out for their expertise. She is a leader among the UTS Indigenous Professoriate, helping to deliver the objectives of UTS's Indigenous Education and Research Strategy, and notably, she has twice served on the UTS Council, our governing body, from 2002 to 2006, and more recently from 2018 to 2022. Professor Berent is a Fellow of the Academy of Social Sciences in Australia and a Foundation Fellow of the Australian Academy of Law. She is also Chair of the Community Spirit Foundation, a Trustee of the Australian Museum, a Board Member of Sydney Dance Company, and a member of the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council. Significantly also, she is one of 7 members of the Australian Universities Accord Panel, which has been formed and tasked with identifying appropriate and lasting transformative reform in Australia's higher education system. Her extraordinary advocacy for the rights of First Nations peoples has been recognised through numerous prestigious accolades, including the Australian Human Rights Medal in 2021, the New South Wales Australian of the Year in 2011, and NAIDOC Person of the Year in 2009. In 2020, she was made an Officer of the Order of Australia for her service to Indigenous education, the law and the arts. It is a great pleasure and an honour for the University of Technology Sydney to award Distinguished Professor Larissa Berent AO with a UTS Distinguished Service Award for her commitment and exemplary level of service to Indigenous Australians and for her dedication to UTS that has gone beyond the requirements of her roles. Chancellor, in recognition of her outstanding contribution to the University, I ask you to present Distinguished Professor Larissa Berent AO with the University's Distinguished Service Award.
By the authority vested in me by the Council of the University of Technology, Sydney, I present Distinguished Professor Larissa Berent AO with the University's Distinguished Service Award. Congratulations, Larissa. I now invite Professor Anita Stumke, Dean of the Faculty of Law, to present graduates.
Chancellor, I invite graduates in the Faculty of Law and the UTS Business School to stand. Chancellor, the UTS Council has resolved that candidates recommended to it by the faculty boards in law and business as eligible for awards have completed all requirements of a course of study approved by the boards and has conferred these awards upon them. Chancellor, I now present those graduates from the Faculty of Law and the UTS Business School who are here before you to acknowledge the awards for which they have qualified.
So on behalf of the Council of the University of Technology, Sydney, I congratulate graduates on their achievements in obtaining the awards for which they have now qualified. Just a huge congratulations to all of you.
Graduates, please be seated. Chancellor, students undertaking higher degrees by research in law are highly valued in the faculty. The research strength of the faculty is reflected in and enhanced by our cohort of high-quality research students. Investing in research and early career researchers is an investment in the future of UTS and the nation. Chancellor, I present to you graduates receiving research degrees. The following students have graduated with the Doctor of Philosophy. Lisa Nicole Reid Billington, for a thesis entitled A Response to Colonial Carceral Control, Conceptualising a Decolonial Approach to Self-Determination. Supported by a supervisory panel that included Principal Supervisor Professor Thalia Anthony and Co-Supervisor Dr. Sarah Dean. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Lisa Nicole Reid Billington. Adam Booker, for a thesis entitled It's the History, That's the Killer, and Those Blokes Today Know How to Use It. First Nations Resistance to Proactive Policing in Broken Hill and Wilcannia, New South Wales. Supported by a supervisory panel that included Principal Supervisor Professor Thalia Anthony and Co-Supervisor Distinguished Professor Catherine Biber. Chancellor, I present to you Dr. Adam Booker. Chancellor, we will now present to you our coursework graduates receiving awards today.
The following students have graduated with a Juris Doctor with distinction. Andre Murrell. Juris Doctor, Graduate Certificate in Professional Legal Practice, Natasha Jane Lee Arico. Ryan Binte Faroukwe. Zhe Zheng Liu. Olympia Marta Lubinska-Rokosz. S. Ravi Chandran Nair R. Sridharan. Nishma Shah. Zoe Sofia Spanos. Louis David Stoll. Sharina Yalinajad. Yun Zhang. Juris Doctor Halide Boyraz. Josephine Bui. Madison Louise Crawford. Greta Dixon. Nicole Fuzas. Margaret Ann Hanania. Jasmine Hayes Wong. Catherine Maria Ho. Demetrius Iliopoulos. Jumana Jacob. Amanda Korkeb Kanan. Francis Kavanagh. Olivia Charlotte Callagher. Jia Shi Liu. Luke Joshua Nicholson. Amelia Diana Sakaris. Megan Jennifer Schnitzler. Zixuan Wang. Laura Williams. Billion Wong. Jiayue Zhang. Xuyang Zheng. Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Bachelor of Laws, Honours with First Class Honours, Nicholas Borovic. Anastasia Diashok. Renz Jericho Hernandez. Jivan Jot Singh Kulal. Derek Luong. Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Bachelor of Laws, Zainab Kulthum Ali. Kaea Bidois. Nathan Alexander Claydon. Johan Ferreira da Silva. Angela Lee de la Cruz. Angus James Chandler Dowie. Kayla Dowman. Nuha El Kawaja. Jeremy Cheng Hai Feng. Steve Hatzipavlis. Hugo Horsey. Anthony Huxtable. Naveen Islam. Elena Scott McKean. Natasha Sarah Rees. Rose Sands. Andrew James Sharp. Sophia Sudar. Adrian Talevsky. Shakir Tajuddin. Patricia Ving. Shi Wang. Jillian Xu. Ellen Yamarelos. Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Bachelor of Laws, Graduate Certificate in Professional Legal Practice, Kanel Kanwal Siddiqui. Bachelor of Business with Credit, Bachelor of Laws, Ali Adouj. Matthew Anax Oguru. Saeed Raushan Aziz. Suhaira Shabib. Fatima Fada. Demi Rose Farah. Uma Sanda Ruwan Gunaratna. Thomas James Hui. Marco Antonio Lopravite. Alec Henry Machin. Ashley Nicolau. Krista Pericleas. Lara Sarkis. Kiara Jane Siriani. Alfio Salvatore Tropea. Dion Vlachos. Noor Raid Yako. Bachelor of Business with Credit, Bachelor of Laws, Graduate Certificate in Professional Legal Practice, Amna Ayaz Boot. Sarah El Halak. Christian Philip Nicolau. Belal Saeed. Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Laws, Andriana Andreu. Jessica Jin Hao Lee. Jessica Toma. Fuad Karim Zaidan. Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Laws, Graduate Certificate in Professional Legal Practice, Lachlan Davies. Zhongzhi Shen. Bachelor of Economics, Bachelor of Laws, Duk Phuoc Tan Ho.
Chancellor, this concludes the presentation of graduates from the Faculty of Law. I now invite Professor Carl Rhodes, Dean of the UTS Business School, to present graduates.
Chancellor, we will now present to you our coursework graduates from the UTS Business School receiving awards today.
The following students have graduated with the Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Bachelor of Business Honours with Second Class Honours, Division 2, Dylan Voss. Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Bachelor of Arts in International Studies, Catherine Foody. Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Bachelor of International Studies, Natasha Claudia Beaton. Monique Downey. Chloe Morrisby. Alexina Ronnie Sanders. Bachelor of Business with Credit, Bachelor of International Studies, Melissa Gallagher. Quinton Timothy Liu. Phoebe Lane Whitfield. Bachelor of Business with Credit, Bachelor of Languages and Cultures, Alexia Rose Torresan. Bachelor of Business with Distinction, Zara Allen. Emily Claire Bannister. Jaden Debono. Bianca Carolina Eels. Daniel Kelly. Tong Lee. Wan Lee Liao. Xavier Logan. Roshik Jag Prasad. Jason Kieran Kwok. Luis Valentino. Bachelor of Business with Credit, Heng Jie Chen. Si Yu Chen. Yu Shi Chen. Minhazul Islam Chaudhry Redoy. Blake James Crawford. T. Fong Thao Do. Ruby Duncan. Eileen Goh. Alyssa Jane Hartman. Itana Isaac. Andrew Konomos. Fang Fei Liu. Sichen Liu. Arthur David Locke. Brian Matthew. Morgan Lily Mehmet. Kai John Millington. Charles Campbell Newlines. Isabella Paramithis. Montel Fai Sanarak. Chi Shan Su. Edward Lewis Thompson. Tong Wang. Xin Wen Wang. Imogen Rose Alunado. Jun Ming Zheng. Ray Zhang. Zhihua Zhang. Yifan Zhao. Xiaojin Zhou. Bachelor of Business, Kamil Ahlam Abdullahi. Jia Tong Chen. James Jeffrey Joseph Connolly. Nicholson Gunawan. Dan Yang Huang. Pin Xuan Huang. Joshua Keys. Simon Lee. Wei Yi Lee. Zhixuan Luo. Ngoc Thuy Nguyen. Jessica Olivia. Matthew Ryle. Sampada Shrestha. Sharaban Tahura. Kevin Wei Da To. Christopher Chandra Verma. Louise Vincent. Nathan Vugdis. Ziyang Wang. Bachelor of Business with Credit, Ya Xuan Tan. Bachelor of Business, Linda Chen. From the Faculty of Law, Juris Doctor Mohammed El Assad.
Chancellor, this concludes the presentation of graduates from the UTS Business School.
UTS. Is that mic on? No, it is, yes. So on behalf of all at UTS, I'd like again to say huge congratulations to our new graduates, and just as importantly, to your family and friends who have given their support, love, and no doubt a great deal of understanding during your studies. Finishing a degree or diploma is a major milestone, and we don't underestimate the hard work and the sacrifices that you've made in reaching this goal. You should be very proud of what you have achieved, because your university is certainly very proud of you. Your graduation is, of course, one of the most important moments in your life and brings with it opportunities and challenges. The opportunities available have never been greater. UTS graduates are held in very high esteem by employers, not only because of the quality of the education that you've received here, but also because of its very practical nature. Conversely, the challenges in the workplace have never been greater. Scrutiny and the expectations of society are already high and continue to grow. I would urge you all to maintain the highest level of professional and personal integrity. Confront with courage the inevitable ethical dilemmas as they arise, and remember the caution that the behaviour you walk past is the behaviour you condone. Of course, beyond the opportunities and challenges, a graduation signals that you have gained new knowledge. Use it wisely and use it responsibly. Ensure that your impact is a positive one, that you're seen to contribute, not to take. And I say this particularly because you are graduates of a University of Technology. And as we know, technology can certainly be applied as a force for good. But you need to be alert to its unintended consequences, and this is becoming a bigger issue by the day. So the applications of technology may be intentional, but there are some that are intentionally not benign. There will be times, however, when knowledge alone is not enough, and you'll be required to make judgments where the answer is not clear. Judgment is informed by experience, and usually by the experience of making what are called mistakes. We all make mistakes, but the benefit of those mistakes is that they provide the best learning, and they do build the reserves of judgment on which we can later draw. So my challenge to all of you here today is to make sure that you make enough space and time to acquire and deepen your judgment skills. Turn off the laptop, turn off the iPhone, and just think. Think about the questions you need to ask, think about the answers you receive, and then think about the judgments that you are being called on to make. And I can't stress enough how crucial it is to be able to think. We all know that our world is becoming increasingly complex, but with careful thought and reflection, this complexity can be managed. Purposefully thinking through the decisions you'll face and identifying the intended and the unintended consequence is an important career skill. So please, please make time to develop that skill. Thinking is not as easy as one might think. Finally, we hope that your relationship with UTS doesn't end today. Your career will certainly evolve in multiple dimensions and probably across multiple geographies, but it will require new and continuous learning. And UTS is very focused on how it can support you, its alumni, in your lifelong learning needs. So we now welcome you into the global UTS alumni. Stay involved and stay in touch, and remember that the UTS Alumni Office is your lifelong connection to this university. So may I congratulate you all again and wish you every success in applying the skills and the knowledge that you've gained in this world-class institution. Well done again. It now gives me great pleasure to invite Distinguished Professor Larissa Berendt, AO, to deliver the occasional address this afternoon. Larissa.
Thank you, Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the distinguished guests that are here, including my colleagues from the Jumbana Institute and my Indigenous colleagues on the stage, Emeritus Professor Michael McDaniel and Associate Professor Dr. Nicole Watson, but perhaps most distinguished of all, our graduates and their families. It's such a privilege to be addressing you here on this important occasion on the Gadigal land. I've got a bit of a throat infection, but I'm going to try and soldier through. I was so thrilled to be asked to speak today, and I feel very humbled by the award the university has bestowed on me. It's given me a chance to reflect on some of the things that I've learnt along the way that I can now get to share with you. I do know the sacrifice and hard work it takes to earn a degree, and I know the importance of family and peer support as a part of that journey. I had the obstacles of low expectations of some of my teachers due to my Indigenous heritage, my own internal struggles with imposter syndrome, and the fact that no matter how much I worked and achieved, there were those who assumed that I was just there as the diversity hire. But I had other teachers who believed in me, encouraging parents and family, elders in my community who wanted me to succeed and to become the first in my family to go to university. What I also had that has equipped me along the way was a strong sense of what my passion was. A Yuwalarai and Gamilaroi woman, I'm also the daughter and granddaughter of members of the stolen generations. I was taught politics by the Aboriginal community in Redfern, understanding from a very early age the negative intergenerational impacts of colonisation on my community, but also the importance of self-determination, identity, culture, resilience and resistance. So by my mid-teens, I knew I wanted to become a lawyer to change the world. It took me to law school, during which time I started to write about Indigenous issues. You could say I found my voice then, even though I'm losing it today. When I graduated, my first job was working for New South Wales Legal Aid, and it was important work helping those in need and navigating a justice system that for many seemed remote and intimidating. I gained great experience in casework, but I began to understand that a case-by-case approach to problems would not satisfy my personal passion to change the world. So I remembered how much I enjoyed writing about those issues and studying law, so I went back to study and became an academic. Unfortunately, I also came to realise that sometimes evidence-based arguments at critical times are not able to counter ideology and the aspirations that people have to win elections based on tough on crime policies, irrespective of the evidence of the damage they can cause. And that is why I became more and more involved in creative writing, broadcasting and filmmaking, all avenues to create space for people affected by the injustices of the legal system or laws and policies to tell the human side of their stories and experience. This hearts and minds approach is not only a powerful way to make change, but I noticed that it was an important way of empowering people who had been sidelined and silenced by legal processes. Telling their story was a way they got some of their own power back. This has been an important evolution in my understanding of what it means to be an advocate. At law school, we're taught how to present a case before the courts in the language of the law. But there are times where, as advocates, we can use our privilege to create space for the most marginalised to tell their stories in their own words. I hope that one thing you take away from my experience is how important it is to find your passion and to ensure that whatever path you take, there is a way of engaging with it. And it doesn't have to be social justice or changing the world. But if you can identify what it is that you are passionate about and make it a guide for the choices you make about what you do and how you do it, you will have a richer, more rewarding life. You will find a natural drive for the work that you do, and a greater fulfilment and success will naturally follow. What I've also come to appreciate from my own experience and my time at UTS is how transformative education is. In the area I work in, Indigenous law and policy, there have been continual failures to close the gap. But where I have seen positive transformation is where a person graduates with a professional skill set. They are forever changing the socioeconomic prospects of their family. They are building the capacity within their community and developing additional ways to learn, think, and problem solve. For me, this highlights the importance of continuing to question what we know, to challenge ourselves to be better thinkers and more creative problem solvers. In the recent referendum, there was a part of the campaign against the Voice to Parliament that said, "If you don't know, vote no." Whatever your position, I would urge you to never fall for this kind of lazy thinking. There is no excuse for it. Through what you've learnt in your studies, you know how to research, how to evaluate, and how to proof. As my good friend Tim Andreu has written, and whose daughter is amongst those graduating today, be a thinker, not a tinker. To all of you who graduated today, this ceremony doesn't just mark the end of your studies, but the start of the next stage of your life. As you travel on that path, wherever you go, whatever you do, you are now, by virtue of your education and qualifications, a leader within your community. And part of the responsibility of that position is that you have a clear view about your values and the type of community that you want to live in. And in your deliberations about this important question for yourself, I would ask you to not just rely on what you think you already know, but test yourself to learn the many different views and perspectives that are put forward by the rich and varied voices within our community, especially those at the margins and who have the hardest time being heard. Even though I was born into a community that is plagued by disadvantage, I've had opportunities that others haven't, and this gives me a responsibility to dwell not on where I have come from, but to speak out when I see people or the values that I think are important in a civil society threatened. It is an important responsibility to embrace when you are part of a community. I've come to learn that life is a team sport, and today you celebrate not only what you've achieved, but the family and friends around you who have helped you on that journey. Having an honour conferred on me today reminds me of how our achievements and success are only gained through a strong network of mentors and peers. I've had the privilege of supportive parents and siblings, an extraordinary and loving husband, and a group of peers who've worked to make Jumbana research what it is today, and the support of the university community to achieve that. And I would particularly like to acknowledge our Vice-Chancellor, Andrew Parfitt, and our most recent, though retired now, Emeritus Professor Michael McDaniel, for the support they've given us over the years. I am very grateful for the lucky fate that saw me come to work at UTS, an institution that truly values diversity and social justice. And I hope that you are leaving with the same affection for it as I have and feel, and that the university continues to be a part of your future. Finally, I envy each of you the opportunities that await you. No matter what circumstances you were born into, you have the chance now to make your life extraordinary, to have adventures and experiences that your parents never dreamed of, and to make the world around you a better place. And I wish you all the best as you do that. Thank you.
Graduations are among the most important occasions in the life of a university, and we're privileged at these times to have some of the most distinguished members of our community speak to us. Today has been a particularly significant day, and I have to say personally quite an emotional one, as we've honoured two of our Indigenous leaders. This morning, Professor Michael McDaniel, our former Pro-Vice-Chancellor in Indigenous Leadership and Engagement, and this afternoon, Professor Larissa Berendt. One of the things that get left on the cutting room floor of the citation was that I first heard of Larissa when she chaired one of the most significant reviews of Indigenous higher education in Australia, which is now known as the Berendt Review, and really for the first time saw a way in which we could tackle inequity and achieve parity of participation for Indigenous students in higher education. I met Larissa about 10 years ago when I sought her advice as a newly minted Deputy Vice-Chancellor around leadership of an institute within my university. And I've had the benefit of that advice for 10 years since. Graduates, you would be wise to heed the advice today. Know what your passion is. Articulate your beliefs. Know what you need to do to make a difference. Even though evidence-based argument is not enough, find new ways to overcome the challenges. Advocate for the marginalised, to use their own words. And finally, challenge ourselves always as we grow and know so that we can change the world to the way that we want to see it in the future. Would you join me in thanking again Professor Larissa Berendt?
Chancellor, guests and graduates, that occasional address concludes the formal proceedings of this ceremony. On behalf of the Chancellor, I invite you to join the official party for refreshments. These will be served in the Great Hall foyer and in the balcony room adjoining this hall. The photography, framing and memorabilia services are located on level 4, which is one floor below us. The academic procession is about to leave the Great Hall. As it does, I invite our new graduates to join the procession, which will end in the balcony room. Would the congregation please rise for the academic procession?